Good morning. Welcome to Stanching Tyranny Radio. Jim and Jeff Stanch here, hosts this show every Saturday morning at this 8 o'clock hour. Glad you could be here. Happy February 1st.
Yes. Yeah. We're
Tomorrow.
already 1 month through 2014.
That's
You
right.
believe that?
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
Believe it or not, we got the Super Bowl tomorrow. It's also Groundhog Day.
That's right. That's
so
right.
I wonder if spring will come early. Don't seem like it, does it?
No.
But
no,
if we ever deserved an early spring,
yeah.
it would be this year.
Right. But, of course, on the other hand, have we not had an abundance of early springs for the last 30 years?
That's true. And when I
mean,
say
really.
we deserve it, what do we deserve?
Do we
here in
deserve
America?
anything,
Not
really, listeners?
Not really.
No.
I mean, just look at the state of the.
Well, one could say we're getting what we deserve.
You could say that.
Yeah.
Could say that. But we're glad you could be here. We're not going to spend much time talking about the Super Bowl. In fact,
I think we're not going to spend any time.
no,
talking
we're
about
not.
the Super Bowl.
A couple of things are on our mind, however, as you know,
Yeah.
the State of the Union address. And we're not going to give you a big, long dissection
Yeah.
of the State of the Union address.
Right.
But there is one thing that we have
really
in our,
caught our eye. Yeah,
Yeah.
really got in our craw.
and we're going to get into that, as
Yeah.
well as those just phenomenal U.S. GDP numbers.
Oh,
this week,
yeah.
huh?
I am so
Huh?
impressed with that.
Yes, sir.
You know,
yes,
that's-
sir.
Wow. When we really dig into them, listeners, you'll see why we're so excited.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we should get right to it then.
We should. We should.
What do you want to start with?
Well-
GDP numbers or State of the Union?
Let's talk about the GDP numbers.
Let's.
So
yeah.
GDP came in as a quote robust.
Robust.
What was it? 3.2% GDP growth.
Wow, headline from AP, solid growth brightens economic outlook for 2014.
Now, may we start by saying, listeners, you do understand that GDP is a false reflection on the economy.
Yeah.
Because, and we've done the example before, we won't bore you by doing it again, but basically any movement of cash, one way or the other, is seen as GDP growth, even if that money is forcefully taken from you.
Absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Can I read from the AP
Oh,
article?
sure, why
I would
not?
love to.
Yeah.
Dateline Washington, D.C. Consumers will spend more. Government will cut less. Businesses will invest more. And more companies will hire.
That all sounds like wishful thinking. to
Add
me.
it all up, and you can see why expectations are rising that 2014 will be the best year for the U.S. economy since the recession ended
Ah.
4.5 years ago. That's why the Federal Reserve is pressing ahead with a plan to scale back its economic stimulus.
Yeah.
The optimists got a boost on Thursday from an economic report that showed consumers fueled solid economic growth in the final quarter of 2013.
Stocks were up on that day.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
The report lifted hopes that the economy will be able to withstand turmoil in emerging economies, a pullback in the Fed's stimulus, and mounting risks to the U.S. stock market over the next 12 months. Here's where it gets good.
Yeah. This is my favorite.
Americans struggling with long-term unemployment and stagnant pay might not get relief anytime soon, and areas such as manufacturing, construction, and home sales remain far from full health.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Now, so that was the truth in this whole article.
they got to give you some truth.
They got to give you some truth. But because it goes on to say, the rest of it is lies. Still, the outlook for the economy as a whole brightened after the government said growth reached 3.2% annual rate last quarter on the strength of the strongest consumer spending in 3 years.
Now, I have one word for that, listeners. Lie.
Lie.
Lies.
Lie.
Now, understand, I don't know if you remember, listeners, hopefully you've been listening long enough to know this, but they redid the formula for GDP growth about a year ago, maybe a little bit less, and they went all the way back into the 1930s, redid all the math,
Yep.
so that the numbers we show today will be convoluted enough for us to be given such great positive numbers.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, quote, Diane Swank, chief economist of myRA Financial, said, the economy showed real signs of momentum at the end of 2013. We are better positioned for decent growth for 2014 than we were a year ago. Consumer spending surged in the October to December quarter at an annual rate of 3.3%, the best pace since 2010 and a big jump from the 2% growth rate of the previous quarter. Consumer spending is particularly important because it accounts for about 70% of the economy. Now, I don't know about you, Bo, but
Yeah.
I kind of remember talking about some headlines about, let's see, I think there was J.C. Penney closing, 33 stores nationwide.
Laying off thousands of employees.
Thousands of
That's
employees,
correct.
that's right. There was the story about Sears and Kmart that haven't had growth in sales in, I don't know, 13 quarters or something like that.
That's a long time.
Year over year. They're broke.
Yeah.
I think there was a story about even Walmart.
Their sales
feeling the pinch.
Are flat to down.
Yeah. Yet I have to repeat this. Consumer spending surged in the October to December quarter at an annual rate of 3.3%.
Yeah.
The best pace since 2010 and a big jump from the 2% growth rate of the previous quarter. Something don't add up here, Boog. Help me out here.
You're right. It don't add up. And see, that's why these news outlets, quote unquote news outlets, are reprehensible because they don't tell you the truth. They don't look at the whole story. AP is particularly guilty of this because, let's be honest, they don't have any real reporters anymore, right?
Right.
They take information that's fed to them and they kind of shake it up and put it in a different package and stick it out there. And next thing you know, everybody else is parroting what the AP says, and then that becomes common knowledge.
That becomes fact, right? That's the whole idea.
Now, listeners, we're not economists.
No.
Right? We're really not.
No.
We don't know if we're right or if we're wrong, but we do know about numbers that are also reported that don't get the headlines. For instance, real disposable income plummets most in 40 years.
Huh. Now
Did you see that headline, listeners?
Wait a minute. Disposable income. What exactly is disposable income?
I can define disposable income for you, Bog.
Okay.
That is income that's left after mandatory payments like taxes, et cetera, as well as food, shelter, things like that.
Right.
Your basic.
What's left over after you paid all your bills?
You could think of it that way.
Okay.
Sure. And that is at the lowest number since 1974. Now, real disposable personal income dropped by 0.2% between November and December, and 2.7% as compared to a year earlier.
Now, wait just a minute.
Yeah.
You're saying that disposable income dropped 2.7%.
Right.
Yet consumer spending year over year rose 3.3%.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm just having a little trouble with the algebra here.
You never were a mathematician, Bo.
I thought I was pretty darn good. I was better at math than you ever were. I'll tell you that.
I agree with that.
But it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up.
Well, it doesn't add up, does it?
No. It doesn't even divide up.
No.
Or multiply up.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Help me out here. I'm looking at the headline. Solid growth brightens economic outlook for 2014.
And I'm looking at this headline, real disposable income plummets most in 40 years. Now, unless Americans in December just went up and out and racked up all kinds of credit card debt,
Right.
where did they get the money?
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I have a theory, though, as to why real disposable income plummeted and
Mm-hmm.
how at the same time there could be a growth in consumer spending.
Okay.
I have a theory, which we will get into when we get right back.
You're gonna make
on-
us wait.
Yeah, I'm going to make
You know,
you
you're
wait.
rotten.
Thank you.
You're rotten.
We'll be right back.
All right.
Welcome back to Stanching Tyranny Radio. Jim and Jeff Stanch here, hosts of this show. We're glad you could be here. We're talking about the GDP growth numbers that came across
exciting.
everybody's news feed. It was on the nightly news,
yeah.
this news and that news, and boy, what a recovery we're going to be having this year. Yippee!
Yippee, yeah.
Except when you read the headline that says, real disposable income plummets most in 40 years. That's a problem, listeners.
Yeah.
So the question we asked before the break is, how can you have real disposable income plummeting most in 40 years and at the same time consumer spending growth so as to bump up GDP by over 3%? How does that happen?
How? It defies logic.
I have my theory.
Okay.
It's called Obamacare.
Yeah.
When we are, let's call Obamacare what it is. It's a tax. You're being forced to purchase
buy a product. Right.
A product. Now, when you buy a product, listeners, what happens? Does that get counted in GDP growth?
Of course it does.
Of course it does.
Yeah. Yeah. Matter of fact, I have in this AP article a little ditty here I'd like to read. The strength in consumer spending last quarter was driven by purchases of both durable goods, products such as cars, computers, and communications equipment, and non-durable goods like clothing. Goes on to say, spending on services also rose strongly.
Services. Listeners, it's not people going out to dinner.
No, it's not hotel stays. It's not casino, gambling.
No, it's Obamacare.
It's Obamacare.
We're being forced to purchase health insurance. Understandably, those listeners who are saying, yeah, well, they're way down on the participation rate as compared to what they expected. Well, that's true, but it's still more than it would have been, number one. Number two, what about those people who didn't have to sign up for quote-unquote Obamacare but had their existing plans refurbished, recast, and went way, way up.
Way up.
A big story this week on a lot of various news outlets was the video of the company, I think it was in Pennsylvania, that had the little meeting powwow about their health insurance and how it was going to
skyrocketing.
And you had examples of people's premiums going up 30% plus.
40%, 47%, I think one of them was. Yeah.
Now, that is why consumer spending is up. That is why GDP is up. Because GDP, I'll just remind you real quick, is a false number.
Yeah.
Because
it's a measure of activity. Well, remember, listeners, activity doesn't always have to be productive, right?
Let's give them our famous Jim and Jeff from Stanching Tyranny example.
Yeah, here we go.
It's summertime. I hate cutting the lawn. I say to Jeff...
Wait. I think we should change our example to a more seasonal type of example.
It's wintertime. I hate shoveling snow.
You got it. I know
All
you do. Yeah.
And Boog comes over and he knocks on my door and says, hey, Boog, I'll shovel your snow for exactly $20.
Right.
And I say, you're on.
You're on.
And I give him $20, and he shovels my snow.
Yeah. So that's $20 that added to GDP.
Correct.
Economic growth.
Correct.
Quote unquote. Now, I get home from shoveling Boog snow, and I'm all tired and wore out.
You know?
I don't feel like shoveling any more snow.
I have to go and live on a corner.
Right.
Right? You shovel all that snow.
So I called Bug and said, man, I shoveled all your snow, and now I'm all tired, wore out, and I didn't even get a chance to shovel my own snow.
Yeah.
And Bug says, oh, Bug, don't worry. I'll come over and shovel your snow for $20. I say, you got a deal. Bug comes over, shovels my snow. I give him $20.
Right.
Now, the net equation is zero, right? Because listeners, they canceled each other out. I didn't make $20. I just gave it right back to Bug.
And I didn't make $20 because I gave it to him.
Right, but guess how much GDP went up?
$40.
$40. Isn't that great?
Isn't that terrific?
Yeah.
So, listeners, when you have your money forcefully taken from you, whether it be in the form of taxes or whether it be in the form of unconstitutional participation in the Affordable Care Act, GDP goes up.
Right. Yeah.
GDP goes up.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you think.
Right. All at the same time, that is also why we have real disposable income plummets the most in 40 years.
Mhm.
Why? Because when you're being forced to pay outrageous health insurance premium rates, whether it's through the exchanges or not, your disposable income goes down.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the Jim and Jeff Stanching Tyranny theory on the falsehood of GDP. Please do not listen to GDP growth because it is not a true number of economic.
Yeah.
growth.
It's trickery. It's designed to give you a sense of health, a sense of a brightening future, even a sense of what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
I must be a real screw up. I mean, if the economy's doing this great, why can't I get a job? Why am I struggling if the economy's recovering? There must be something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Listeners, there's nothing wrong with you. This is all designed to make you think that, keep you busy, keep you occupied, and keep you distracted from the truth.
Yeah.
The truth is disposable income is at a record low, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. But don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
The government will be to the rescue. Will they not?
Oh,
we
absolutely.
had the State of the Union address
That's
this
right.
week.
That's right, yeah.
Those listeners who may have watched it may have managed to get through it. We watched
we
it.
We did, yeah. It was
more of the same.
of course we couldn't help our being snarky through the whole thing.
Well,
and,
that's true. We couldn't help that.
let's face it, it wasn't a very good speech.
No.
I mean, it wasn't inspiring or anything like that. It was pretty lame, actually. It was kind of droning on. Droning on. You like that?
Droning on.
Yeah. Right.
But while most of the talk was about President Obama's claim to being able to bypass Congress or get things done, put into action, all those words.
Mm-hmm. Which is wrong, by the way. Yeah, we
it's
agree.
absolutely
I mean,
wrong.
there's no room for that in the Constitution. They're going to do it anyway. It doesn't matter what we think. The Constitution doesn't matter.
Did you notice the whole chamber stood up and gave him a big old round of applause when he said that?
Right, yeah, because guess what? When the Republicans get in there, they're not going to do anything different.
They're not going to reverse it.
No, they're not going to abolish it.
Matter of fact, President Obama complained about George W. Bush using too much executive orders.
Right.
So they all lie.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And here comes the next lie that piqued our interest.
Yeah.
And that is the lie of myRA.
myRA.
Why don't you go ahead and play that audio?
Oh, I'd be glad to. Let me
play
pull
that
it up
audio.
here.
Did you? You had it up. Now you
Yeah,
don't
it's
have
right
it up?
here. There it is. All right,
go
ready?
ahead.
Here we go.
Yep.
Let's do more to help Americans save for retirement. Today, most workers don't have a pension. A Social Security check often isn't enough on its own. And while the stock market has doubled over the last 5 years, that doesn't help folks who don't have 401ks. That's why tomorrow I will direct the Treasury to create a new way for working Americans to start their own retirement savings. myRA.
What's it called again?
It's a new savings bond that encourages folks to build a nest egg.
Look at Joe Biden. Sitting there shaking his
myRA
head.
guarantees a decent return with no risk of losing what you put in.
No risk.
And if this Congress wants to help, work with me to fix an upside-down tax code that gives big tax breaks to help the wealthy save, but does little or nothing for middle-class Americans.
They're going to fix the tax code.
Oh, yeah,
Offer
sure,
every
they'll
American
fix it,
access to an automatic IRA on the job so they can save at work just like everybody in this chamber can.
Oh, yeah.
And since the most important investment many families make is their home, send me legislation that protects taxpayers from footing the bill for a housing crisis ever again and keeps the dream of home ownership alive for future generations.
Yeah, isn't that
Yeah,
good?
see? See, everybody in that chamber, they're able to save.
Yeah.
Sure, right. Well, he's right about that.
Oh, yeah, they
because
get all those inside
they get all the inside deals,
the-
and let's face it, most Congress people, when they enter Congress, are not millionaires, but by the time they leave, they are multi-millionaires.
Same thing is true with President Obama. He and his family have a net worth that increased by almost or even a little bit more than $10 million since he became president.
Yeah, and it's not magic pixie dust or it's not, God's favor or anything like that. It's fleecing you, listeners.
Well, that's exactly what it is, listeners. And so when we hear something like myRA, our first reaction, of course, is you're not doing that for us.
No, we know
So
you
that's
don't
when
do anything for us.
No, that's when we start digging around.
Sure.
So we can try to find out, all right, what's really going on here. And we're going to get into that a little bit. But understand something. That lie that he is spouting there about retirement savings is an absolute, just outright abomination. Because the problem, listeners, isn't that there's no government program available for you to save.
You do have access. He just said he wants to give regular people access to saving money.
Yeah.
You have access to saving money.
The
problem
problem
is
is
you can't save it when your disposable income is the lowest since the 70s.
And people who are cheering this should have their head examined.
Yeah.
Listeners, you don't need President Obama setting up another government program so that you can save.
Yeah.
You know what you need to save? You need money.
Right.
You need the government to get off your back.
He
you
just
don't need a reform of the tax code.
Exactly. It needs to be abolished is what it needs.
That's
but
what
he
it
will
needs.
never say that.
Well, he would never do that.
Right. And truth be told, neither would the
No,
Republicans.
of course not. Of course not.
We talked about on Monday night, we talked about, was it Paul Ryan or was it Paul Ryan?
Paul Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it on
espousing
Monday night.
the benefits of Mincom.
Correct.
Hey, he didn't say it in so many words, but
course
he
not.
might as well have.
If you care to listen to it, go to the Stanching Tyranny Facebook page. Scroll down. You'll see an archive of Monday night show. It's on a little late. We don't expect listeners on the East Coast to listen because it's on at midnight.
Yeah.
So, but we got into some pretty interesting things. And one thing that I came across last weekend after the Saturday show was Paul Ryan's little opinion piece in I believe it was in the Wall Street Journal regarding doing away with welfare, Section 8 housing, all kinds of these benefits, and rolling it into one nice little regular monthly payment instead. Listeners, that's Mincom.
Yeah.
And understand, both sides of the aisle will come out with their version of Mincom, but they'll put
and
their
there'll
little
be a
twists on
they'll
it.
be a little different.
In Paul Ryan's case, he'll demand that you prove that you're either in school or looking
Or
for
working
a job
or looking for
working,
work, something
right?
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to what do they call it? Means testing or
Yeah.
something like that. You know,
all those sorts of
yeah.
things.
And the
right?
Democrats, they'll be against any kind of means testing.
They'll
and
say
all,
everybody should
you
get
know,
this
right?
and that.
Sure,
and,
sure.
and for no qualifiers
Right,
at all.
right.
When here's the absolute fact: neither should be done.
Right.
The IRS should be abolished and
You
completely
should be allowed
dismantled.
to have all of the fruits of your own labor.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's how we run things here. It's really simple. It's not. It really doesn't have to be as complicated as they've made it, does it?
Well, it doesn't have to be. Part of me says, I think Americans like it being so
Well,
complicated.
yeah, I think you're
Americans
right about that.
really like solving these little problems via government. And
Yeah.
it's disturbing.
It is disturbing.
Let's get into
Yeah.
the myRA,
Okay.
because I found a few of the details
Yeah.
that I'd
Well,
like to get into here.
Just to kind of lay it out, what is this thing? Well, it's an IRA that has a guaranteed return,
a decent return.
decent return.
Yes.
Now let's define decent return. Decent return is however many cents on the dollar. Maybe it's 2. Maybe it's 3 if you're lucky. But one thing we do know is it's less than the rate of inflation,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah.
Because it has to be. The only reason that they're doing this is to create a market.
Yeah.
That's the truth. So they'll take your IRA savings and maybe that's not what he's talking about at this point, but it'll come.
Oh, well,
Be patient.
that's coming. That's coming.
but
can
this
we,
is-
can
this
we
is-
say this will lead to confiscation of your 401ks and IRAs?
Yeah, absolutely.
This will lead to
This is the first step. They
Yeah.
need to get this in place. They need to get this in place first.
Yeah, it's no different than the way withholding was foisted upon.
So anyway, myRA is it's a fund, and the fund is buying treasuries, treasury bonds.
Yeah.
And they need to be bought, listeners, because the government's spending money like it's going out of style.
we'll get into that.
Somebody needs to buy these things, and heck, it might as well be you.
May as well be you. Let me explain a little bit of how it would work. These are the details that we know so far. Number one, they would be structured like a Roth IRA, similar to savings bonds. The investments would be backed by the federal government.
Full faith and credit?
Full faith and credit.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
That is so good.
I was hoping.
Yeah. So because they would be structured like savings bond, there is quote unquote principal protection, meaning that the account balance would never go down.
Oh.
It would only ever go up.
Excellent.
Right?
Excellent. Yeah.
They will.
Everybody, who would not like that?
Yeah. Yeah. They're going to have a pilot program for certain companies to sign up and offer the accounts to their employees.
Okay.
And the companies have until the end of 2014 to participate in the initial phase. Workers will be allowed to invest if they make less than $191,000 per year.
Okay.
There will be no tax penalty if the investments are withdrawn early. And initial investments are going to be allowed to be as low as $25 for the initial investment and as low as $5 for subsequent investments.
Okay. Nice.
And of course, you're going to be allowed to have it automatically deducted
Of
from your
course,
paycheck.
right? Yeah, of course.
And once you accumulate $15,000 or you have the same account for 30 years, it needs to be rolled over into a traditional IRA.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
Jeff mentioned, what's this decent rate of return? Now,
Yeah.
naturally, he doesn't say that.
Yeah, and he won't.
Yeah. But the fact is that we can bet that it will be a low rate of interest and that it will be slightly lower than the rate of inflation.
Yeah, well, notice the focus on the protection of the principal, right? I mean, he's hanging his hat on guaranteeing that you'll never lose what you put into it. Okay, well, great. You may not ever lose that $15,000, right?
Yeah.
But what happens when, over the course of time, that $15 only buys $1,000 worth of goods compared to what it bought when you originally saved that money.
Yeah, I think you've reversed your example, but I see what you mean.
Okay,
Yeah.
but in other words, the $15,000 lost value.
Right.
It
right.
buys less than it would have.
Yes.
Had you had the $15,000 keep up with inflation and let it grow at least the rate of inflation, if not more. This rate that they'll be paying on the myRA will be less than the inflation rate.
Yeah.
So you will lose money.
And like we said earlier on in the segment, the fact of the matter is Americans don't need another government set up, government initiated program.
Of course not.
To save.
Right.
What the American people need is for government to get off their back.
Right.
So that they can keep more of their money.
Right.
So that they can be cash flow positive each month instead of living paycheck to paycheck like Americans are these days. That's the problem. And that is thanks to government.
Yeah. Yeah. And remember, they will make all of these problems, they will make your fault.
Yeah.
They will make the problems your fault, and then they come in with the solution. Well, the fact is that you got to remember that it's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
They did it that way on purpose so that you could be blamed and that they could give you the solution, which is what they are after all along.
That's
and
true.
in this case, they are after a nice pile of cash.
You know?
IRS says that there is $5 trillion sitting out there in retirement savings accounts. And guess who wants it?
Yeah. So this is just a stepping stone, and we'll get into that when we get right back from this quick break. Thanks for listening to Stanching Tyranny Radio. Welcome back to Stanching Tyranny Radio. Jim and Jeff Stanch here. We're talking about the State of the Union address. In particular, we're talking about myRA.
Yeah. I know it's a tongue twister. Even the President Obama had a little trouble getting it out there.
Yeah,
he almost said my IRA. No, it's myRA.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about that. It's a really it's a farce. You know, what a disappointment we have in our political leaders that really no one has the fortitude to step forth and really do what would be best for the American people.
Yeah.
And that would be just completely disembowel the existing federal monstrosity that we have. Disembowel it, get rid of all these departments, shut them down.
Get back to the basics that are outlined in the Constitution.
Yeah.
But it'll never happen.
No.
Why? Well, because they all crave power and money. That's all they care about. They don't care about you.
Yeah.
The fact is the government of the United States has a net worth of negative $16 trillion.
Yeah.
Americans' retirement accounts have a value of $5 trillion in the positive. They want that money.
Oh, yeah.
They want that money so that they can continue their irresponsible spending. They can continue doing favors for buddies and connections, just like we've seen with the Chris Christie administration. It's happening all over the place.
Well,
and you are the laughing stock.
You are. You're the laughing stock because you get busy each and every day doing what you can to reverse the just ever encroaching steps of government, all at the same time while asking the government to do more.
Yeah.
Which
The very people who created the problem
are asked for the
solution.
Yeah. And that's the way they want it, listeners.
Right. Well, sure.
That's absolutely the way they want it. That's the way it's designed, and maybe someday we will wake up and understand that we have to stop relying on these men. They're only men.
Yeah. Yeah, they can't resist themselves.
Yeah.
They can't resist it. The power, the money, they just can't resist it.
But they're only men.
Yeah.
They're only men.
Mm-hmm.
They're no different than you and I.
Yeah.
Barack Obama could be sitting on the old, porcelain throne right now for all we speak.
Hey,
Just
they
like
all need a plunger every
anybody
once in a
else.
while. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Listen, when you're in the plumbing trades,
Yeah.
you get to see things at their very basic level.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true of everyone.
Right. Don't forget that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, can we get off the... let's talk about this some... You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That part of it. It's just...
Yeah.
I know. Early.
It is early.
Yeah.
It is
okay.
early. But there's good reason for them to want to implement this. Don't think, listeners, that President Obama was just like laying there in bed one night next to Michelle and said, you know what?
Yeah.
I got a great idea. How about this, honey? How about we make this new retirement savings program? Because goodness knows that Americans aren't saving enough. So what they must need is a program to go ahead and save more. And we'll make it so that employers have to participate and save money on their behalf. And we'll call it myRA. What do you think about that?
Oh, honey? I love it, dear.
That's not what happens.
No.
He gets his marching orders from the CFR, who get their marching orders from the global banking elite. This isn't a new idea.
Yeah.
It's time. They see the time. You know what they really need?
Well, yeah.
You know what they really want?
They need support. Is what they need. You know, I haven't seen a whole lot of excitement about this idea.
You know what would bring a lot of
I know what would bring a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
It's a nice little
crash.
Yeah, a little pain, a little, cutting IRA accounts and 401ks, cutting the value down, a little bit, maybe
big old
knock it in half. What the heck,
stock market crash?
Yeah,
right?
Reminiscent of 2008,
if not even worse.
A little pain. That's what Americans need to get on board with this thing. A little pain.
Yeah,
and it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's got to happen.
What better way to get not only support for myRA, but what if the government, using this structure, would say, not only are we going to allow you to invest in these government guaranteed securities that we'll never imagine. If you had the myRA, well, you wouldn't be all upset because of the stock market crashing. And in fact, what if you get to sign up tomorrow, we'll renew your account balance at the rate of 90% of what you had before the stock market
Here's
crash.
what they'll say. We'll make you whole.
We'll make you whole.
Because we love you.
And that shouldn't have happened.
Right.
Not in the land of the free.
No. Absolutely. Things like that shouldn't happen. Well, let's see what... This is a great clip from last year. Ron Paul and Jim Rogers talking about IRA confiscation.
People probably know who Ron Paul is. They may not know who Jim Rogers is. Jim Rogers is a billionaire extraordinaire, investor, often gives market commentary on, Fox Business and various other news channels, financial news channels, who's been warning really about what's going on for quite some time. Let's hear what they have to say regarding IRAs, 401ks.
This is August of 2013, August of last year.
They will take our retirement accounts. They will take our 401ks. They will say you've all been having such hard times earning money in your 401k. So what we're going to do is we're going to save you. We're going to give you government bonds, which are guaranteed, 30-year government bonds, and you will get 3%, and you give us your retirement assets in return. In the 30s, they took gold because gold was part of the monetary system. I don't think in America they'll take bank accounts, but I would be very worried about having an IRA or a pension plan in the United States.
Ron, what do you think about that? This is possible that they'd put...
For
Putting retirement
the US
accounts,
government,
putting IRAs and bonds?
I don't doubt it for a minute. They'll do what they think is necessary, and they'll use force, and they'll use intimidation, and they'll use guns, because you can't challenge the state. You can't challenge the state's so-called right to control the money. So they will, if they need to do it. It's already indicated that they will confiscate funds, and they will. The pension funds, in some ways, indirectly, they start with that because there are rules. It's very difficult if you have an IRA fund or a pension fund. It isn't easy to put that into gold and silver. And eventually they're going to be, if you have a private fund, I don't doubt for a minute that they're quite capable, the people I know in Washington, of saying, well, you got to save the country. You can buy treasury bills from now on. So, no, I think that's very possible.
That is
There you
very
go.
possible. Dare we say likely to happen in the U.S. of A. Because they're getting to the point where the end game is in sight.
Yeah.
The federal government, state government, local government can't keep operating the way they are. We've already said it once during the show. Disposable income is at a 40-year low. How much more can Americans take?
Yeah.
If there's a crash in the stock market, they will ride in on their horse with the solution. That's what they'll do. And another clue as to why all of a sudden we have such big interest in a myRA, all of a sudden where there's this urgent need to set up a savings vehicle. Oh, there's an urgent need.
Oh,
all right.
absolutely.
It isn't to provide you with a savings
It's
plan,
got nothing to
listeners.
do with you or protecting you or anything like that. It has everything to do with protecting the power structure, does it not?
And it has everything to do with supplying cash to buy government debt. Headline, the debt ceiling X date is back, may hit as soon as February 28th. Do we think that this is just a coincidence, listeners, that we would have a pseudo-mandatory retirement plan, savings plan, that would be buying U.S. government debt instruments, and at the same time, we're less than a month away from another debt ceiling crisis?
Right. Well, it's just like Ron Paul said. It will be in the name of patriotism, in the name of saving the country, that they will exercise these mechanisms. This is just a stepping stone, is it not? I mean,
yeah.
this is innocent enough right now, just like Social Security was a stepping stone to the withholding mechanism that you all enjoy, we all enjoy now, that takes our income.
We offer up our first fruits to the government, don't we?
Yeah. It was never about building a nest egg for you in your old age. It was always about getting their tentacles into your paycheck.
Yeah. Can I read from this article? The Bipartisan Policy Center calculates that approximately $198 billion of extraordinary measures will be exhausted come the end of February.
Now remember what the extraordinary measures are.
Well, they already have them in place. If you're a federal employee, you do know that your retirement plan investments are all going into Treasury bonds.
Right.
Listeners, anyone who is a participant in that plan, you don't think it's to make sure that you have a safe investment, do you?
No.
If you do, you need to wake up and do some reading, because what that is for is to supply the government with cash that they take out of your hide so that they can continue to run, continue to do the
continue
things
to
that
be
they do.
irresponsible with their spending.
Yeah.
To support the industries that are connected, like the banks and the defense contractors and all these things that go into keeping us overseas and in foreign lands and the contracts that for building and roads and all that stuff that happens overseas when you have a military that's spread throughout the world. That's where it's going.
If I can read, I quote from Zero Hedge, one of our favorite websites. What this means when looking at a calendar is that the Treasury may not have sufficient cash on hand to cover all obligations as soon as February 28th. Because February historically has a high cash deficit due to the start of tax filing season and the payment of income tax refunds, extraordinary measures will be exhausted quickly. The delay in the tax filing season resulting from the government shutdown has exacerbated this situation. After that point, Treasury would no longer have any borrowing authority at all, and all obligations would have to be paid out of cash on hand and incoming revenues. Extraordinary measures could well be exhausted before February 28th. The risk of serious negative financial market and economic consequences would raise significantly in an environment where Treasury has no capacity to borrow additional funds to meet unforeseen challenges.
Yeah. So you know what that tells me? We're lining up for the day where the government cannot pay your refund. Remember, it's a refund of overpayments into the IRS. When you get a check back from the government, tax season time, it is a refund. It's not a rebate. It's not because they love you. You overpaid and you're getting paid back what you overpaid. Now, that brings me to a great idea. If I were government and I had all this power and I wanted to keep this money, I would say, well, you know what? We're going to pay you back. Sure, absolutely. You overpaid and we're going to pay you back your refund, but we're going to put it in your myRA account.
Right.
We're going to just put it right in there. It's backed by the full faith and credit. And so you don't have anything to worry about. We'll put it right in your myRA account.
And really, you really should start saving.
You really should,
anyway.
listeners. It's
It's the right thing
You should
to do.
be doing the same thing that the people in the House chamber there are doing. That's saving, right?
Yeah, save your money, listeners. You have a bad track record of saving.
You sure do. Shame on you.
So we're going to make sure that you save your money, and we're going to take that refund of yours that you were going to get. I know you had your eyes to pay off some credit card debt.
No,
we're
we
not
got
going to
better
do that.
ideas.
We're going to put it into the myRA for you. Why? Because we love you.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make you feel good?
It sure does.
Yeah.
I am so glad
That's
government
great.
is looking out for me. Let me tell you that, Volk.
I know you are.
Let me tell you that.
I know. I think we've given listeners a good idea what's going on here, and I really hope that people will do some research on their own into this thing.
And listen, we
please
could
don't
have
just
it-
go by what we're saying.
We could have it all wrong.
We could. We could.
But can I just say this? If you expect a tax refund, file your taxes early.
Yeah, file
all
them
I'm
early.
saying.
Yeah, get it. Hey,
Yeah. Get it done.
why not do it today?
Why not?
Yeah.
We're just saying,
Yeah,
that's all.
that's all.
We could be completely
Right.
wrong. You could wait till April 15th and everything will be hunky-dory. I don't know that I would.
Yeah, absolutely.
saying.
Absolutely. We should talk about, since the disposable income is down and all that, there is a way that you can kind of generate more disposable income.
Yeah.
If you could only, remember that disposable income is what's left after you pay your bills.
Yeah.
One of those bills is utility bill, is it not?
It sure is.
Yeah, and if you could lock that utility bill in and not worry about increases, well, then you're basically, in effect, increasing your disposable income.
Yeah, and this winter is just been really hard on utility bills.
Absolutely.
Electric and gas
Both,
and
yeah.
fuel oil. Really, I mean, we need the ability to have some predictable costs
Right.
in our lives, don't
Yeah,
we?
yeah, absolutely. And one way that we like to help people do that is with solar energy.
Yeah.
And it's real easy to go solar right now. Matter of fact, there's no better way to lock in your electric rates, in effect, because you go from being a consumer of utility electric to a generator of your own electric.
Yeah.
That you can manage your usage in your home. We make it easy to do that. Manage your usage in your home and keep it, that being your usage, keep it at the same rate or even a little less than your production.
Yeah.
What a great idea for being able to get control of a cost, the household cost, and even manage it to the point where you can profit from it.
Yeah.
Couldn't you do that?
Well, you sure could. Solar energy isn't for everybody. If you
No.
live in the woods and you got a lot of trees around, the solar energy isn't going to do you any good at all.
Right.
But if you have a house that has a nice access to the sun, where you don't have a lot of trees, there's no real shading issue, you really owe it to yourself to look into solar energy.
Yeah.
Because not only can you lock in your electric cost for the next 20 years, but you can also be paid for every bit of energy your system makes.
Yeah.
And literally get checks paid to you for that energy.
Cash. Real money.
Yep. Yeah, and that is through the SREC program in New Jersey.
Yep.
They've been on an upward trend for the last month and a half. And that's generating some excitement, as well it should. Because really, when you have a scenario where you can lock in your current electric bill, keep it there for the next 20 years, and be paid on top of that with money that is money that you can use for whatever you want.
Right. Real money. Not a credit or anything like that. Cash money.
Yeah. It's a great way to go.
I mean, it's great enough that you can replace your electric bill with a bill that's not going to go up, right? But to get paid on top of that is just tremendous. myRA, schmyRA.
Yeah.
You know, you can make an income that can be, on the order of $1,000, even a couple $1,000, depending on the size of the system per year. That's real money that you can put into your myRA.
Yeah. And it's nothing to shake a stick at.
No.
Give our office a call, 888-669-7337. Anybody at the office will be glad to talk to you. Give them your address. They can pull up your home on their computer, have a look, and see if it, at a very basic level, looks like it would be a good proponent for solar. You can then schedule an appointment for us to take a look at your house. We'll do the measurements. We'll take a look at your electric bill. We'll figure out what solar can do for you exactly, and we can do it in a way that will minimize your inconvenience. You don't have to worry about setting aside a whole lot of time to do it because we make it easy.
Yeah, listeners, we've gone to great lengths to make it a simple process for you where we don't have to spend a lot of time, at your home. We can use technology to do everything virtually or online. Even the appointment itself, we do via an online meeting.
Yeah.
We don't have to come to your house. We say it all the time. Come to the meeting in your PJs and your bunny slippers. We don't mind. You should see what Jim wears half the time. It's really, I'm getting really tired of it, to be honest, listeners. I mean, he gets up in these goofy outfits. They get goofier all the time.
Well,
I'm just grateful that you don't have to share my misery in witnessing this exhibition of strangeness.
Yeah. Well, but it's a lot of fun. It's a great way that people can look into going solar with real numbers, real life examples, see what it can do for them, and then make a decision. And it's a great way to go. What a great way to counteract falling disposable income and to get a hold of one of the biggest costs that a household has, and that is your utility bill. So give our office a call, 888-669-7337. Talk to them about your home, give them your address, have them look it up.